welcome to Mentoring Mondays. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Nicole. We are two industry experts bringing you insights from the big business of fashion to the startup entrepreneur. This is a 4-part series covering the basics of small batch manufacturing. Today we're going to be giving you an overview of the small batch manufacturing process.
So Nicole, what would you consider small batch made in the USA?
I mean, anything under 300 units is generally considered small batch, and 300 units for most entrepreneurs is still out of reach. It takes a lot of resources, time, money, all that to do 300 units. So I would kind of like to see more of a sample run sort of process. I'd like to see something as small as 20 to 30 units be considered small batch. But for now, it's definitely, 3 to 500.
So traditionally in the fashion industry, you're looking at large businesses producing big volumes, and they're usually done offshore. The disadvantage to producing abroad in some cases is the exploitation of the workers, using inferior materials that are not lasting very long, and then the environmental impact that it's having by producing so many things at what is considered an affordable price, but has become disposable fashion.
Yeah, so that excess waste, people wear a cheap garment 1 or 2 times and then throw it away because it's falling apart. That's one aspect of it. There's also fewer environmental regulations at a lot of the factories that produce overseas, and then also the workers' rights are not respected, especially women's rights over in those factories. So much more lax humanitarian regulations over there.
Do we think it's possible for small entrepreneurs, startup entrepreneurs, to be able to do small batch? Well, in reality, you sort of already are doing that. If you are home sewing and you're creating garments or accessories that are being sold directly to your customer, your client, that in its own form is a small batch. You are making sure there's a client at the end of that production. In some cases, especially for these larger businesses, that's not their focus. They will produce at such a volume that they only expect to sell a certain number of those items. So the excess then goes into the landfills, which is a disadvantage for these big businesses, because they do have to do large markdowns and sometimes at below the cost price to make it.
Yeah. So that model just isn't working anymore. The fashion industry has really started to figure out, or the consumers of fashion have started to figure out how the industry is just very wasteful and exploitative. It has really, in the traditional model, just given rise to all these big companies that just, with their low prices, that just really squeeze the small entrepreneurs out. They're just not able to compete with the big business model. They just don't have the clout. Part of small batch manufacturing is educating the consumers on the benefits versus not. So people, once they understand what their money is going to, they're generally willing to pay a little bit more for something that's made ethically, it's made in smaller quantities, it is, giving a job to somebody in the US where, labor practices and environmental standards are higher. I think people can come around to the small batch mentality.
And technology has really created an opportunity for these startup entrepreneurs like yourself. You're able to find your tribe, your group that's following you, perhaps on your Instagram page or Facebook. And through that avenue, you're able to sell directly to the consumer. And that's where you have other opportunities to know a bit more about your consumer. Whereas these larger companies are making generalized products. You're able to specialize a lot more. So don't be discouraged. There's a lot of opportunity, very specialized opportunity, but for you to grow.
People want more diversified fashion. So there are a lot of niche markets out there that entrepreneurs can absolutely fill. It is, like Stacy said, just trying to find your tribe. So Yeah, people definitely want more unique, interesting pieces than they have in the past because it aligns more with their values as people start to, appreciate the impact of fashion on the environment and the labor market. They're definitely looking for brands that align more with their values.
Thank you so much for joining us this week as we cover the overview of small batch production. Next week, we'll be going over the challenges. If you would like to learn more about the industry, sign up for our newsletter.
And if you're a fashion entrepreneur looking to take your business to the next level, visit SEWBROMO.com and check out our entrepreneur courses.